Hey, yo, what is good, guys? Welcome back to another video. I'm going to be telling you guys what stocks to buy before October and during October. With that being said, man, we have been in an upward trend and honestly selling off the previous week. So we're going to be talking about some stocks that can do well in this time. You can look at some metals like gold, and I'm potentially looking at crypto this week to see if we could potentially get a move upwards or downwards. But we have key stocks. You guys can potentially see it at the top right now. But with that being said, man, let's get started. To say, man, we do have some stocks kind of sticking out. We have Tesla. Tesla is going to be one stock to watch, but mainly for option plays, but you could potentially buy a bunch of shares too if you guys swing trade like that. But we mainly trade options. We swing trade, day trade sometimes, and I make daily videos like this all the time. So if you guys are new, subscribe. But with that being said, man, the first one on the list is indeed Uber. The reason being is because we kind of went up past that $100 level. We talked about this maybe like 2 weeks ago or something like that. And then we finally broke above the 100 and then broke past it, got like $2, and then we started selling off soon after that. So I want to watch that $100 level once again. So if you guys do want to do a call option, you could potentially scope out a $100 call option like to $100 and then potentially sell it maybe at like 150. Don't get too greedy with it, but we could potentially break some all-time highs with Uber if we can break that $100 level. And you can also watch it, see if we can bounce off the $100 level once again. But Uber is one to watch and have on your radar because this one can move pretty decently. The next one is Tesla. A lot of people have been talking about Tesla recently, but we have been getting some big swing moves. And honestly, we've been stuck in a range with Tesla. So the upper range is around that 450. So that 450 is going to be a key level. If we could break above that 450, we could potentially go up even higher. But to the downside, we do keep bouncing off around 420. That's a level that I like to watch, is that 420. So either way, wherever we are, you guys can watch that 450. And if we get a fail break past that 450, you guys can do a put option. You could potentially watch 445 as well. It bounced off 445 a bunch of times, but you can watch that 450 next because $50 is a key level for a lot of stocks and a key level that it normally bounces off of to say. And then if we do start selling off and you get that bounce off, you could potentially have your patience and wait for around 420 to like 417. But I would recommend waiting and getting in at 420 to 425. If you can get in here, you can have a call option, potentially a day trade, and make a decent amount of money off this one. I've been rinsing and repeating this play. Up at the highs, I'll buy put options, and then up at, or down at the lowest, I'll try to buy call options. I only hit one call option this week, or did one call option this week, and then I did these two puts right here and day traded them both. With that being said, I think here I did it at open at around 435, and I played it until 425 on this one, which wasn't too bad. And then on this one, I played it right at open because I think the market was doing pretty good, but then Tesla was one that wasn't really doing too well. So we held it. We held it a little bit longer, but I think we sold this one at 437, around 437 level. I sold a little bit too early on this one. Could have made way more money, but it's not about making a lot of money around here. It's about, securing profit, stuff like that. But I'm going to be looking for it next week to continue. And if you guys are interested, I do post every single one of my plays on my X account, NextGen Wealth Tips. And I also post news early so you guys can get in early. But if you guys want to get the plays and understand when I'm doing these plays, you guys can follow me on X. Have those post notifications on there so you guys don't miss out on a play. But Tesla is one that I'm watching. Next is going to be Lyft. So mainly why I'm putting this one is because we called this out, like 2 weeks ago or a week ago at around that $18 level. I think we were around here, or no, I think it was here. And then next day we went up to 20. And then this day we sold at that 22. I'm just making this, I'm adding Lyft to it because we can have the potential to go up even more, but we've been consolidating. So Friday, we actually sold the rest of our call options. We had call options. We sold half here, took some profit, made them free basically, made them free and took a little bit more profit on top. And then here we sold the rest, still securing that profit. With that being said, I just want to make it official that I sold in case you guys watched that video and you guys bought in. You guys can still hold it though. We got it for a while. But with that being said, I did sell the Lyft. With that being said as well, I might watch for it to break down, maybe back down to that $20 level. We could potentially load back up, but we did have a big push and then just been consolidating for the rest. So we could potentially get another push upwards. But honestly, man, we might just get like 26 to 27, maybe even 30. But this one would just take a while. And honestly, man, we already made profit. We might as well just take our profit, a quick profit, and then potentially line up a trade later on. But we will be watching Lyft for some movements. And if we can get some better movements or the charts look a little bit better, we can get more into call options and or even put options if we start going to the downside. Next, like I said at the beginning of the video, I do want to check out crypto. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of this is going to be on watch. We did have another breakdown back down to like 109. So one thing that I'm watching, either a break to the upside or to the downside. Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP is going to be ones on my watch, because potentially Q4 can be great for these. So with that being said, I'm going to be waiting to see if we can get a bigger break to the upside. I might wait for like a reclaim past that 115 and then potentially play a play to that 120 level. And if you start breaking down even more, I might watch for some better levels to get in, like that 105 to that 100. I think we might get a big bounce off that 105 to that 100 if we do start breaking down once again. But with that being said, this is going to be for a bigger swing trade, maybe even buying some shares in IBIT and some option plays overall, maybe for a couple months out too, because honestly, Bitcoin's not going to keep on selling. But if it does, you guys can play IBIT, MSTR, Coinbase, Robinhood, and others. But with that being said, one that I am going to have on my watch is IBIT. IBIT, it's an ETF that moves with Bitcoin. And depending on how we move, if we get a big break upwards or big break downwards, you guys can play options on these. And the deltas are pretty good, honestly. And with that being said, you can also buy some shares. Like if you can somehow scope it out at that $60 level, you could potentially get $5 in the money, maybe within, a few weeks. And shares are just going to be a little bit more safer. But if you guys do want options, they're relatively cheap. And honestly, man, you can buy them maybe for like November 28th. And you can probably scope out, maybe like a $65 option. And honestly, that might be around, let's look at it, $300, which isn't really too bad. You could potentially double your money by that time. But with that being said, man, this is one that I'm going to have on watch for Bitcoin. And then for Ethereum, we have ETHA, ticker symbol ETHA. And this is a ETF that moves with Ethereum as well. And if we can get a break upwards with Ethereum or break downwards with Ethereum, you guys can trade this, day trade this, swing trade this. But I'm probably going to be looking at a swing trade to the upside when we do start seeing some good momentum in crypto overall. Q4 might be good. You never know. And or it might just get a bigger sell-off. So please keep that in mind overall. Next one is going to be NVIDIA. So it's the same thing for NVIDIA and Apple when I mentioned Apple, which is the next one. But we have kind of like a 50-50 odds. NVIDIA is one that moves pretty well. A lot of people day trade this one, swing trade this one, and this one has to be on the list because we have been testing that 180 a decent amount of times, so we haven't gotten to test it. So I think, or haven't gotten to pass it basically. With that being said, 180 is going to be a big level on my watch because if we can break past 180, we could potentially get 183 to 185. We could potentially continue this bull run and or might get a bounce off the 180 or start selling off even more because right now in the short term, we're looking pretty bearish. So if we do start selling off some more, a big level to watch on the downside is going to be that 175 to that 174.5. You could break below that. I'm going to be watching that 170 level because 170 can be a good time to load up. These are some decent lows, but last time we got down to this level, we bounced up a decent amount. So I'm going to be watching that 170 if we do start selling off, especially a broader market sell-off. 170 is going to be big. With that being said, man, this can be a good one to load up if we do start selling off, but just have your patience. And honestly, if you guys don't know when to get in, just follow me on X and we can get in together. But with that being said, man, I'm going to be watching if it goes down or up. This could be a quick day trade, swing trade, maybe the next day, get 3 weeks in advance for options and then sell it the next day. If we can see some good movement with this one, but we have been consolidating a decent amount, not breaking past that 180. So honestly, in summary, just see if we can break past that 180. If we can start looking bullish a little bit more, potentially get up to 185 to 190. And then if we don't start breaking up and it looks a little bit more bearish, we can watch that 175 and we could break below that. You could potentially get a bigger fall to that 170. So keep that in mind overall for NVIDIA. And kind of the same thing with Apple. We've been consolidating. We did have a decent sell-off, but then we came back looking a little bit more bullish in the short term, but it is kind of looking like we're going to consolidate maybe for a couple more days unless we get a breakout. With that being said, one key level in Apple is going to be that 257 to the upside. If we break past that, we could potentially get up to the new highs of 260. We might get a big bounce off that 260, so keep that in mind, or we can break past it. And then to the downside, I will be looking at that 254. And if we break below that 254, we could potentially get lower all the way back down to that 251.5. But 251.5 is pretty strong. We held above it for a little bit and honestly just multiple times trying to break it and we didn't break it successfully. So 251.5 is going to be big past that 250. If we break below that 250, we could potentially sell off even bigger with Apple. So please have your patience with Apple, but kind of the same type of play with NVIDIA. Just look for a decent break. If we can break up 257, we could potentially get to 260. And if we break below 240 or 254, we could potentially get all the way down to 251.5 and maybe even continue breaking down. So please have your patience with these plays. Trade safe, have your risk management on lock because honestly, this market is 50-50 right now. We could potentially continue selling off. We got some like decent news that might bring down the market, like that government shutdown that might potentially be happening, and some other ones. I do recommend looking at gold. GLD is a good stock to watch, especially safe haven. So please keep that in mind overall. But please just lock in some profits for this week. Let's do good and let's wait for market to open. I'll be having a better video on Monday kind of explaining it once the market opens and we can see the movements. So stay tuned for that. Smash the like button, subscribe if you guys are new. And if you guys don't want to miss out on any of the plays early and some news like earlier before anybody else gets it, I pay for it so you guys don't. You guys can follow me on NextGen Wealth Tips on X. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.